What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Halfway through last year 2021, I released a video discussing my journey to 5k subs, little lessons that I learned along the way, good habits that I picked up, and ultimately things that I did that I feel largely contributed to me getting to that milestone at that time. Now today we're going to do the same thing, having just hit 10k subs in essentially a year, and I just wanted to share some learnings that I further on developed going from 5k to 10k, and just some general things that now form part of my routine and in my mind that maybe weren't there before. I'm also going to try and keep it under 10 minutes to not keep you too long here, but in essence what I'm doing is I'm dividing it into 3 separate categories. So let's call them approach and technique and understanding. So approach, technique, and understanding. So stick with me while we quickly dive into these and I explain a little bit more about what I mean with each one of them. So when we get to approach and what I mean by that, in essence, what it boils down to me is a consistency driven mindset. Now this is something that I've faltered with in the past, and I largely believe that this has helped me structure the way in which I bring content to the channel, but also the way in which I think and therefore actually make that content. Now, specifically for this conversation and basically the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking about the context of YouTube. However, I think that this can kind of like be bridged over to pretty much any other content delivery out there. So whether you're on Facebook or you're making TikTok videos or Instagram stuff, or you're on Twitch, anything like that. The point is that introducing consistency to the product, whatever that is that you're bringing to the platform, is going to allow people to kind of get used to things being available at a certain time and then go looking for it if they can't find it through any other means, or more than importantly, they're going to be thinking about you or your content. So whether that comes down to releasing a video every specific day that you think about yourself, I'm going to make 3 videos a week. So I'm going to make them Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but then also thinking a certain time of the day. So my videos always go up at 5, or my videos always go up at 8. The point of this is that you're always at all times kind of like fighting with the algorithm, if I can put it that way. And so sometimes your stuff might not be getting served to people, that are even subscribed to you. There's a lot of nuance to this, and without getting into much detail with that. But the point is, if you have consistency there, like I said, you can inspire this kind of like a thing where people will be like, hold on, it's Wednesday. I usually hear from the Full Measure on Wednesday by like 6 o'clock. Now, this might seem like overthinking things in a small way, but especially when you're starting out, a lot of the times, and I know this was the way for me, is that I kind of worked with whatever free time I had available. And so sometimes I was able to make 5 videos a week, and sometimes real life got me down and my job got me down and this and that, and I was only able to do 3. Now, by no means am I saying that you should, because at least in my case, this is for me a hobby foremost and not the main breadwinner in my house, the main way in which I bring money into my house. And so it is oftentimes that you can say, okay, but there are more important things out there, and I fully agree with that. However, I found, and what worked for me, is that when I started thinking about a content-driven, consistency-based plan, is that I knew that I had to produce X amount of hours a week, no less, no more. And the point is, then I could start planning my week and my month and whatever around that. And once you have that structure, again, I think some people work better in a structured based environment, while some people don't, and I understand that. I'm definitely one of the ones that work better in a structure. And once I brought this sort of that why I keep referring to this consistency based mindset, I actually realized that I actually started winning time back. So where usually I would look at my week and go, holy shit, I just got through that, and I still feel like I didn't get everything done. I get to the point now where I sometimes go like, wow, I've got some free time because I've already done the videos that I needed to do for, Monday and Wednesday, anything like that. So definitely, I think your approach into how you deliver this and how you set it up and essentially how you live within it, because remember that, I mean, the thing is, if this is a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. So if, at least in my case, I know that I'm going to be doing this for at least the foreseeable future. And so I have to think about ways in which I approach it that is not only comfortable for me, but something that I can keep on delivering and not break away from that consistency. If you set something, a pace or a process for yourself that's too hard to hit, or too hard to keep hitting and sustain, then you also risk the problem with burnout and essentially then again failing in your consistency. The next topic, technique. And what I mean by that is essentially that you are, at least in my case, I'm producing videos and I'm also streaming. And so the way in which I actually end up putting that onto YouTube, there are things that you can do, there's techniques that you can master or be good at that allow you to get more traction out of that videos, to get those videos to reach further and to affect more people. Because in the end, it's a views game. You want as many people as possible to see these videos that you spend so much time making and that you put your blood, sweat and tears into. So the idea is to get it in front of as many eyes as possible. Now, one part of this is discussing, of course, SEO, which is, of course, just essentially optimization of the search engine and finding out ways in which you can brand or market or add on keywords and everything like that to your video so that more people can see it. Now, it's an incredibly broad topic and far beyond the scope of just this one video or even this small section of the video. But I will say that something that has helped me a lot is reaching out to apps that exist out there that actually help you a lot with SEO optimization, and also just starting to learn it a little bit more and sort of, experiment with it more. So the two recommendations that I can make, and they kind of like almost do the same thing, and generally you'll find people that staunchly support the one or the other. I've actually used both, and I, to be honest, don't really have a preference for either, although I used one specifically right now, is TubeBuddy. So TubeBuddy is an extension that you can add in your browser onto, and it provides you with a whole bunch of statistics and things like that about your site. There's a free version of it available, of course, but it also has great built-in modules that allow you to, optimize keyword research and that sort of thing. And the other one that I've also experimented with in the past that kind of does the same is vidIQ. So definitely check out both of those, or one of those at least. Like I said, there are free options that have some of the functionality stripped down, but definitely check those out because they do help you, especially if this is brand new to you, if keyword research and understanding, how you should phrase your titles and how many how many words you should have in a title, what should your descriptions look like, should you use hashtags, all of that. That can be very daunting to someone that's just starting out. And these apps, you can absolutely survive without them, but they go a long way to helping you to understand it better, and also just to automate a lot of this as well. And that's the other part of this technique thing, is at least with me, with creating videos, I use music in my videos, I use intros in my videos. There's certain parts of my videos that are kind of like static and generally always the same, like for instance when I remind people to sub. So there are things that you can do where you can create templates, and this is again just you sitting down and thinking about the structure of how you make these videos and how you make these clips, or how you do streams, and figuring out where there are repetitive things that you can essentially set up in a template so that you don't have to recreate it from scratch every time. So a lot of the times what I've realized is when I started out this whole thing, I kind of like, I did way more and I planned way less. Now I plan way more, and consequently then I do less as well, and I get the same quality, if not better. So definitely technique plays a role. So the last point that we have is understanding, or deeper understanding. I kind of struggled to think of what I would call this. And it's also because it's the broadest topic that I could probably spend hours talking about, and also because it's different to each person. But specifically for me, something that I realized between 5K and 10K subs was that I needed to understand the difference between what YouTube wants from me from an algorithm perspective, what my audience wants from me, as in what they enjoy me doing, talking, and creating content for, and lastly, what I want from this whole experience. Now, a lot of the times those things are jumbled together, or sometimes you might not even know what those are. And that's, like I said, some people are lucky and they have this figured out right from the start, and I think that's fantastic, and I am super envious of that. But some of us, and this is me, I've come along from sort of starting with thinking I want to do what YouTube wants me to do, and then pivoting to, okay, but I really need to, sort of service my audience and make sure that they get what they want, and then I kind of don't concentrate on the other two. And then also at some point going like full rebel and go like, I don't really care what my audience wants to watch me playing. I don't really care what YouTube is promoting me to do. I really want to play this game. I really want to talk about this thing. I really want to record footage on this thing, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Now, the point is, if you fall into any one of those three camps only, then it's going to be increasingly hard for you, I think, in the long term to make a success of this. At least That's how I felt about me. Bear in mind though that all of the points that I've mentioned to thus far, including this big conversation that we're having right now, is mostly using me as an example, and so it is subjective to a degree, and some things you might disagree with me on and some things you might think really hit to home, and that's really why we're having this sort of discussion. But for me, I needed to realize that I could live within all three of those confines, those three things that I just mentioned now, and still be happy with what I'm making. Because in essence, that brings us full circle back to the first point again, and that's consistency. If you are doing, at least again, using me as an example, if I'm only doing something to serve the YouTube algorithm, I think long term, I'll get fed up with it and I'll step off. Because it's not going to be something that I'm personally invested in, and it's not going to be something that makes my heart happy, and it's probably not going to be something that people enjoy watching, perhaps, or my core audience for that matter. Likewise, the same can be said for only pursuing your core audience or your audience wants and needs. I know many streamers, many people that I've spoken to, and many of my friends that have done this, that have found themselves pushed into a niche because they did something once or a couple of times and they found some success in that, they found some good feedback in that, they found people really enjoying that, and so now they feel they can't do anything except that because just the numbers aren't there and the people aren't there. So and then in the end, you kind of like you're stuck doing this thing that you don't really like doing, but it's more successful than any of the other things, so I guess this is just what we're doing. And then last but not least, the one where you just sort of service yourself, which is certainly a way of being happy about the whole thing because you're pleasing yourself. But then in the end as well, you have to remember that what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the middle ground between something that you enjoy doing, something that you enjoy creating, producing, whatever, and an audience that enjoys consuming that. And it's a fine line. So for me, I had to learn that you could exist in all three of those camps and be 100% fine. And the way that I did that is to learn to step off of the numbers. You stop looking at subs going up and subs going down and views going up and views going down. Those are important metrics and they always tell you whether you are on the right path. But for me, there was a while when I was so stuck in that game that I felt that it was actually affecting the quality of what I was producing, because I made decisions based on those numbers instead of decisions that was based on this or this. So deeper understanding for me means also just understanding myself in this whole thing better. You can understand the algorithm as much as you want, you can understand the games that you play as much as you want, and you can understand your audience as much as you want. But it's only when all three of those things come together in a degree that I think that it's a healthy place for you to actually produce and create content. Now, again, I will end off by saying the thing that I constantly keep reminding myself, and sometimes I know it off by heart and sometimes I have to go, hey dude, just remember, this whole thing, again, at least for me, is a marathon. It's not a sprint and it's not a race. There's an idea in my head of where I want to end up in. But what I'm not going to do is say, if I don't get that by next week, fuck it, I'm out. But what I'm also not going to do is take my eyes off the prize. And that is just, being able to be successful in this while sharing something which makes me so happy with people that also make me so happy. And I think somewhere in the middle there is where we'll all meet. But that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments down below. Another reason why it was important for me to do this is because a lot of my audience, a lot of people on the Discord are people that are now starting out this journey, and I want to help them as much as I can. We don't often get a chance to have these kinds of conversations, and I want people to know that whatever they ask me, my channel's called The Full Measure. That is how I am. So there's no question too small, no question that's a secret, and no information that you're not allowed to find out. My idea is full frontal honesty. So anything that you'd like to know, let me know in the comments down below if you have any further questions on this topic or anything else for that matter. But most importantly, I just want you to have a fantastic morning, a great afternoon, and a super awesome evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.